Yo, what's up, guys? Last video, I don't know if you guys saw this, but I had Ben Awad on my video where we roasted some people's code. It was all fun and games and stuff like that. You know, he's the king of JavaScript on YouTube. He knows all the stuff about JavaScript. I don't know that much, so I didn't watch that many of his videos. I mean, I watch them from time to time, but I don't watch them that much, right? And when I post the video, right, I go and look at his channel and I see this video that our coding interview's broken. And like, yo guys, I mean, I'm all friendly with this dude and like we were having a good time and stuff like that, but it seems like he's coming for my channel. Like 90% of all my videos are, you know, about teaching people how to pass the coding interviews and stuff, and he's kind of just saying it's all useless and should just be thrown away. So I don't know what to do here, guys. Like, do I break my friendship over this? Like, what do I do with, I mean, we just only talked a few times, but like, I think I need to defend myself. Nah, I'm just playing. It's not a personal attack, and you know, he made this video and there's a ton of points I agree with, right? There's a ton of points I agree with, but I don't think he considered all the stuff, so I just want to give a little bit more clarity. So basically, the gist of what he's saying in his video is like, it kind of sucks how your experience doesn't matter that much in these interviews, right? You could be a senior engineer with 5 years experience, you go into the interview, you've still got to study for a few weeks to a month because it's all going to be algorithms and data structures, right? He also says a few other things like, you know, big companies are testing these, but, you know, why are small companies testing algorithms, data structures? Like, why would Home Depot study it? You know, he disses Home Depot, and, you know, I like Home Depot, so I don't know why he had to do that. And then I guess the last other point he made is that, you know, the questions are a little bit irrelevant because, like, why are we testing for these? You know, in the industry, you're not going to be doing algorithms. You could just Google this stuff. You're not going to have to implement algorithms that much. If you do, you just Google it. So I just want to give a couple more points to this that I think are not being considered here a little bit. I guess the first thing I'll cover is that, you know, these interviews have a little bit more purpose than just being hard or whatever. In college, some of the first things they teach are, you know, that are fundamentals are algorithms and data structures. And, you know, that is fundamental information. And it's not just algorithms being tested at a lot of these companies, right? It's algorithms and data structures, and a lot of the algorithms are optimized, you know, ways to solve things are optimized based on the correct knowledge of how to use data structures. Now, data structures are used all the time in industry, so, you know, this is actually pretty important to, like, fundamentally understand how to use them, like the ins and outs, what's better where, stuff like that. Like, that's good to know, all the methods and stuff like that. Doing all of prepping for these algorithms and data structures problems, you're gonna get like really solid understanding of data structures to the point where when you're in industry and you have to implement these data structures, you know, like good, you know, there's methods that you're gonna know just from prepping for the interviews. You know, you get pretty good understanding of the data structures from studying for the interviews. So there's a little bit more. It's not just like you're studying like Dijkstra's and stuff like that, and then, you know, that's useless, right? You're studying a lot of stuff about, you know, trees, hash map, like all the data structures. So that's just something I don't think is being considered a little bit. Like the fundamentals behind this knowledge of algorithms and data structures does translate throughout your understanding of coding in general. Like it is really good for your understanding. Now, besides that, I mean, we're saying like the big companies are doing it. You know, I have faith that these big companies are testing these, first of all, because they have, you know, thousands, you know, they have so much data that they think this is the best way to do it, which, you know, that makes sense. I mean, how am I going to call out, you know, Google and all these geniuses people, you know, I think they know what they're doing, right? So I'm not going to like say that they're doing it wrong necessarily. It's probably the best way right now. I do think the system is going to evolve over time, and it has been, right? Like Google and some of the companies used to ask like trick questions, like how many marbles could fit into a jar if, you know, it was, you know, 5,000 people living in California or something like that. I don't think they're doing those anymore, right? They used to do stuff like that. They're not doing them as much anymore. So the system will evolve over time, and I don't think it's perfect, right? Nothing's perfect. It's probably flawed in like some ways. But I think it's probably best from what they understand right now for them as companies, right? So if you want to work there, you just have to go through the process, right? And like I said, process gives you some understanding of stuff, right? Makes you a better programmer, in my opinion. Algorithms and data structures understanding. Now, do startups and mid-sized companies need to be asking algorithms, data structures? I would say no, right? I think a startup is, you know, they're in their infancy and they're mostly about building projects. It is good to like build your code base like on solid code so you don't have to rewrite it in the future. But if you're just trying to like, startups are about like every second counts. Like people are working like nonstop day and night to beat the competition, like competitors. It's pretty like, it's like a bloodbath at that level, right? So you really want, fast programmers that can get things up and running. So, for startups, I think the best way to do it is, more project-based coding, maybe implementing some classes and stuff like that, whatever programming language you're using. Like you need to be solid in the technologies that you're going to have to do to build the product, right? So I think startups should be doing that. And, for the most part, the startups I've interviewed at, that has been my coding interview experience. I really haven't been asked any algorithms, data structures at any startups. So never. And I've interviewed at a ton of them. I've interviewed at like a ton of companies, guys. So I've had experience with a bunch of different interviews, right? So startups don't necessarily ask that, and that makes sense. Mid-sized companies, I do get asked algorithms, data structures, right? But less than the big companies, right? So the higher up, the bigger the company, the more that process seems to come in play, where it's algorithms, data structures, like standard process with systems design. Like they even tell you ahead of time, on the websites, you can look at the exact process for each company. The mid-sized companies, you might get asked, a few different things, right? They might talk to you for a bit. There could be like a behavioral thing. There could be like implementing classes. There could be like a, front end portion or whatever. And then, maybe one algorithm question and then maybe more about technologies and stuff like that. It's really different at every single company. And right, the companies mostly have a right to interview you however they want, which, that's fine. You're just going to have to deal with it, right? I don't think that we're going to be able to like change the system necessarily, and I don't necessarily think it's that bad of a system. Now, when I came out of college, right, I didn't even know this was a thing, which that is, I think, the main problem here is like I came out of college and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just apply to Google now or whatever. Oh yeah, or like at the end of it, I'm like, yeah, I'll just whatever. Or when I was going to internships and stuff like that. And then it's like, I hear about this thing called LeetCode, and like my first interview was like an internship at TripAdvisor, and I was asked to implement like a merge sort or some kind of sorting algorithm, and I was like, wait, what the hell? Like, why is this the question? Like, I thought I was this is a React position or something like that, and that's a shocker. So I think in college or whatever, this just needs to be more widely known, like the knowledge of the top companies are asking these. Go to LeetCode, go to HackerRank, and you have to study these, right? And at the mid-size and lower levels, it's not as common, but mid-size still common, lower level less common, right? That's how I see it in the landscape right now. And yeah, I don't know. I honestly think it's kind of a decent thing. It does suck that you have to study for a few weeks to a month, but it does, demonstrate that this is a difficult thing to accomplish, getting good at these things. Boom, you accomplish something difficult. That even just shows that you're dedicated and, you're able to solve these problems to get into these companies if you want to at the top level. Now, I will say there also is one big difference between, a lot of people that watch my YouTube live in India, and I think India, like there's a bigger competitive programming movement or community there. And I think that the engineer at the company is asking the question, right? So in India, I've never interviewed at Indian companies, but like for a different country, maybe, I think that companies, competitive programming is becoming bigger. It's really popular some places. They might be asking more dynamic programming or more competitive programming problems because it's so widely, it's such a big community in some places. Here, it's not necessarily the case. Like it doesn't come up as much. But the interviewer does pick the question most of the time at most companies, right? So there will be like, someone will be an engineer. They'll get sent like a thing like, oh, someone's coming in for an interview. You got to pick some questions to give them, or, that might be the case. Or, they'll have specific questions they're going to give out. Someone's picking these questions. So if they're doing a lot of competitive programming or if they think something specifically interesting, it also depends on, the person that's picking the questions, which is also kind of weird. That's a little bit of a weird part of the interview thing, I think, is that you could get unlucky and an engineer can just give you a hard question and, if it was a different person, you would have got a better question. So it's definitely interesting that it's like that's like a little bit of a randomization factor in there where it's like you could randomly get screwed on what question you're getting. So I think that could be like, definitely fixed or whatever. As far as the senior engineer, coming in and their experience doesn't matter. I think that experience gets you the interview, so you have that on your resume. Not only that, your systems design, that's going to help you there. Questions or just talking to and getting along with your interviewer is going to help there. And, I just think that data structures algorithms are like fine, honestly, right now. It sucks in a way, but I think it just is the best way that these companies have found to do it. So I'm on board. I mean, I'm kind of defending my channel because Ben Awad is coming for me. This guy's all friendly in our last video, and he wants to, come at me and just maybe he's trying to destroy my channel, but not so fast, I have some counter arguments for you. But no, I think a lot of the points he made are really good. It does suck. And maybe there should, I will give that maybe there should be definitely another portion, less algorithms and data structures maybe, and more about your experience. That might help a little bit. So that's about it. That's all I have to say on the topic. I just thought I had to give a little bit more context to that because I found it an interesting topic of discussion, and I wonder if this will become a more standard process where we know what's going to be in the interview over time, or maybe more experiential stuff like that. So that's what I gotta say on this. I'm not sure. Are coding interviews broken? Ask yourself that. Peace.